So are we ready?
This is Jay.
This is A,
And this is Moxicated.
where we drop the booze and walk through the reality of life alcohol-free.
So grab your favorite mock, get ready to laugh, and let's get Moxicated.
Oh, hi, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Amazing. You have another guest.
Yes, a very special guest.
We're very excited.
Yes, I am very excited.
I'm excited too.
Yes! Well, why don't you introduce this guest?
This is Susan Knower. She is Suzanne's mom.
We had Suzanne on like
A couple weeks
4
ago.
episodes ago.
Yeah,
Scroll down.
you'll like that episode
Yes.
as well. But this one is special because everyone knows I connect to the parents always.
Is that true? That's
Yes.
that's your move.
Even
Oh,
growing up, just parents, I don't know. And I actually was thinking about that because I was like, it's maybe because I have a great relationship with my mom that I just feel safe with the parent. And so I'm like, oh gosh, I know that they're going to be nice. I know that I'm going to be safe if I buddy up with the parent. But yeah.
Well, and just
Well,
like
that's
we talked about in Abby's episode, like the seating chart of that first night of the retreat was so divine
Yes.
because who did you sit
I
next
sat
to?
right next to
Yes.
them.
Yeah. I thought of that too. I thought of the happenstance of us sitting next to each other and just so connecting immediately. I mean,
Yeah.
it was really, really great.
Yes, it was awesome. Which she just said, but we did get to meet in person at the retreat that everyone has heard so much about.
Yes. Susan, why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are?
Okay. Well, is this like a several-hour podcast?
Yeah. Hey.
I've got a lot to say. I'm old. I've been around a long time. So I'm a therapist, and I have it's a LPC, licensed professional counselor. I've been doing that it's my second career, so I've been doing that for 23 years. And Suzanne, just when she started her whole journey on sobriety, we talked a lot about that, of course, and so she sort of drew me in, and as I'm sort of bringing the therapeutic part or the psychology part of it, but she was really so wise about so much of it. And when she first decided to quit, and you know this because you've heard her story, but she really went on a mission to discover everything about alcohol and what it does to us and how we've used it. And so early on, and actually it was 2 years that she was into it before I actually joined her and quit also.
Wow.
But I was, very supportive, and I was really impressed with all the stuff she was creating. But as a therapist, I've worked a lot with addictions and mental health stuff, which it's always combined, right? I never have ever seen anybody with any kind of substance problem that it isn't connected to a mental health thing. So the mental health piece was really an important part of it, and when we had our discussions and everything, and bringing my professional experience, I think, was really helpful. But I was really following behind her a lot, and in fact, when she was running all of the meetings herself early on, and at some point it became clear she isn't going to be able to do that. And I remember when she said, "Well, Mom, would you be willing to run a meeting?" I was like, "Oh, I was like, nobody's going to want to come to anybody else's meeting. They're going to just want your meeting, Suzanne." But actually, it turns out there are so many fabulous women in this group that we've just all become such a tribe.
Yeah.
And so I'm going sort of meandering all over the place here, but my professional career has been mental health therapist with a substance specialization. And another thing that I do in my business, and I'm retired now from doing the treatment part, but I still do assessments for intoxicated driver, which is just fascinating and fun, and I just enjoy it so much. And I bring some real, uh, I think, some real wisdom in assessing people when they get in trouble with drinking. First
Mm.
of all, I bring compassion and understanding, but just to hear the stories, I mean, it's just really fascinating, and I think it makes a nice companion to the work that I'm doing with Suzanne.
Yes.
Yes.
That is
Yeah.
so incredible. I didn't know that last part. And the two of us, I think, relate to like guiding our moms to this journey with
Yes.
us. So it's just such a cool thing to hear. But also for you to come from that background, and then to then make that decision yourself, after watching Suzanne and you guys both having so much wisdom behind that decision is so incredible. Like for you, it must have been just like, okay, I understand, all of the risks and everything because I've been working with it for, however many years.
Yes. Except I really had the understanding, or I thought I had the understanding that as long as you're drinking moderately, I'm
Mhm.
just drinking a couple of beers a few nights a week. It's no big deal. I'll be fine. And that was the discussion Suzanne and I had early on in her sobriety. It was like, my drinking is not a problem. And of course, that's her whole thing, is you don't have to have a problem with drinking in order to quit. But
Yeah.
so we had a lot of discussions about, I'm drinking often, but I'm not drinking a lot. I'm not getting drunk. And so really it's fine. Well, then listening to her more and more, and then listening to the Huberman, so many women listened to that. And then that was like, oh my gosh, it's not just heavy drinking that creates problems in your brain and in your body and in your hormones and all of it. It's even drinking just a little bit really affects you.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
then that was, yeah, that was an eye opener for me. And it really sealed the deal that I was like, I just really want to protect my brain. So I'm done. And that was August of 22.
Wow. And
Wow.
two, something that I don't think a lot of people
That's
might
amazing.
know about you is that you are such an active person in so many ways, but you just hiked. Where did you just conquer?
I went to Patagonia, so Chile
Yes.
and Argentina. Yes.
Oh my gosh. And that is like the coolest thing ever, I think, truly. There's so many cool things about you, but then even doing that and seeing your photo, just all of it, I'm like, huh, you can't get any
Oh.
cooler. And then she does.
She does.
Oh, thank you.
Oh,
Thank you
no.
so much. That has been just being healthy has been such a focus for such a long time. And then Suzanne talks about that too, the idea that we do so many things to be healthy. We exercise, we eat right, we do all the stuff. And then if we're putting poison in our brain, oh, that's sort of counter to what we're trying to do.
Yes.
And for me, the physical stuff has always been, I've been, a runner and all of that. But the idea of my brain, wanting to protect my brain,
Yeah.
and you may have heard me talk about this in meetings, but my mom had dementia. She wasn't a big drinker, but she was taking benzos because she got prescribed them, and she was on benzos for 10 years, which that's probably why she had dementia. But watching that, the horror of dementia,
Yeah.
and then listening to what alcohol does to our brain even a little bit, it just was like, why would I do that? So
Yeah.
now I do the physical stuff and also the stuff to protect my brain, my old brain.
The wisest
The
brain.
wisest brain. And I'm sure that that's helped like you in your physical activity even more and allowed
Absolutely.
you to continue to do amazing, incredible things like this.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, I don't know if you heard the podcast that Suzanne and I and Jay, her brother, did about after my trip, and it was that idea that if we keep doing hard things, we can keep doing hard things. And so,
Yeah.
just that idea that, oh, I'm old, so now I'm going to just sit, that's not going to be me. And I doubt whether that will be you ladies 40 years from now
Yes.
either.
I hope so.
We can only hope, really.
Yes.
As you're coming up on 3 years,
Yes.
I know that we had a lot of things because you're so wise that we could talk about, but what are you noticing like shifting in your life as you are coming up on your 3rd year of sobriety?
So many things. Just personally and physically, I my sleep is better, though I still wake up in the middle of the night. I worry about the state of the world.
Yeah.
No
Yes.
amount of alcohol is going to help
Yeah.
that. But so my sleep is better. And one odd thing, and this just occurs to me, one odd thing that I didn't even know it connected to alcohol, but I used to have leg cramps in the night. And then I don't know if it was Jillian from Sober Powered. I heard her talking about that, or if it was Huberman, or I don't remember, but I heard somewhere someone said that alcohol does increase leg cramps.
Wow.
And even so, I was having a couple of beers in the evening, but I would wake up with leg cramps. I haven't had leg cramps in, well, almost 3 years. And that's big. You hear a lot of times old people get really struggle with leg cramps. And so that's just a little sort of a side thing that happened that I didn't even know would be part of sobriety.
Yeah.
But so that's, just physically, I also think my memory has improved.
Mhm.
And the classic, you have to remember three things, when someone tells you three things. I just realized I'm really good at that now. And I think that was slipping.
Yeah, that is awesome. Oh my gosh.
I love that.
Oh,
Yeah, so that's better. And then we all have talked about friendships in sobriety.
Yeah.
And if you want to go there now, I can certainly talk
yeah.
about that.
Let's do
Let's
it.
go there because it has to be so interesting for you, at this stage in your life, whether you've had lifetime friendships or friendships, I'm sure that have lasted multiple years. And then to make this decision, it affects us all, but I want to hear your perspective.
Yes, and well, I should say too that I'm 71. I'll be 72 at the end of this month. So I have long, long time friendships. And one in particular, it was quite surprising to me. So I've been friends with this woman for 30 years, and we've been really close friends. I mean, we walked the Camino together in Spain, and we've just done everything together. We've been supportive to each other in all of the struggles that we've had in all the parts of our lives. And so she was always my best friend. And we drank together. We never got drunk together. Well, I take that back. There was one Christmas party when we did get a little drunk. But
Only one in the 30 years. Pretty good.
I should tell you the story of that quickly. So I had a neighborhood party at my house, and Gretchen, my friend, she was making sidecars, and it's just basically alcohol. And Suzanne, I was telling her about it, and she said, "Well, what's the mixer?" And I was like, "Mixer? It's
Liquor.
not. There's not a mixer. It's
Liquor is the mix.
almost all liquor with a little lemon juice, you know." So yeah, I got really everybody at the party. Of course, everybody was walking to my house, so that was good. But so anyway, all that to say, we didn't usually get drunk together. We drank together. We'd have a couple beers. We'd meet after work. She's a PA, and so she would have a stressful job in health care, and I'd have a stressful job in mental health. So every Wednesday night we'd meet and we'd have a couple of beers and chicken strips at the local bar. And we did that for years. And then, so we would have, whatever we would do, it seemed like we'd have a couple of beers at the end of it. Well, then when I quit drinking, and I was not proselytizing, I was not saying you need to do this, but I was sharing all the stuff Suzanne was doing even before I decided to stop drinking. And then when I finally decided I would quit, she really had a hard time with it, and really just pulled away. And we would have these discussions about it. And she said, I just can't be with you when you're not drinking because it makes me feel so guilty because I know I should quit too.
Oh.
And I tried so hard to get her to see that I'm not judging you. I don't care. It's not like you're drinking and getting totally wasted and it's not comfortable for me. It was none of that. it was even this moderate drinking. When I changed, it was uncomfortable for her. And so she just didn't like to be around it. One time she invited me, I was probably sober a year, 18 months, something like that. And she invited me to come to a wine tasting. And I said, and this is interesting because I think we don't know for sure what other people what's going on with them. I said, well, that seems weird that you would invite me to a wine tasting when you know I don't drink. And she said, well, I thought you would like just the people and the music. And so I didn't want to just leave you out. So there's so much nuance there when we're really, like Suzanne calls it, flipping the script, right? Like we've always drank together. Now I'm not. How does that interfere? How does it make you uncomfortable? So it's been 3 years that we've been trying to navigate this. And just in the last couple of months, I think we're sort of making headway. We hiked together and stuff, and we've started doing that again. And I went to a family party that she had, and she said, I have two kinds of NA beer for you. And so yeah, so I'm hopeful that at some point we can, I don't, well, I guess I'm hopeful that we can actually get back to being really close. And all of this to say, we don't know how our sobriety will affect our friendships.
Yeah.
And being patient, I think, is really important. So I could have just written her off and then thought, well, I mean, that would have been, I say that like it would have been easy, it would have been really hard. But we kept trying, we'd have discussions, and then it's like a rubber band, we'd get together and then we'd separate. And so we just don't know how it's going to affect our relationships. And being willing to continue a discussion and being willing to be patient, I think is really important.
So important. And I think that that's something that like we on this podcast haven't really touched on because it's so easy for like to protect your peace. You're like, if they are uncomfortable with your drinking, then they're not worth your time anyways. And, kind of like standing up. But just as you said, in my own personal life, and I think Allie can attest to this too, like I've had people that I really never thought would come to this side or even come to an understanding, and I've been able to see them thrive alcohol free. And it came with patience. It came, and not writing them off and not allowing their thoughts around alcohol to affect our friendship.
Yes.
And I think too, exactly what you said about or what she said, it just makes me uncomfortable. And so I think a lot of the time we are trying not to judge people that are drinking while they are trying not to judge us for not drinking. And it's like the both sides where it's like, I'm not judging you, but I don't know how to exist with you if we're different in this way, like, because for us, I mean, we had talk about a lot, like meeting new parents. The first way to connect is go have a drink rather than having to like talk and play and and so it's like finding that connection without alcohol. You do have to go a little bit further, but we're now at the point where we're used to it, where it's like, okay, well, that person doesn't want to be my friend, or this person, okay, I am gonna try again with this person because they seem like we have the same interests. We can do other things than just go to a bar.
Well, and everyone's timeline is different. And I think when you've been in any sort of relationship for so long, and I'm sure as a therapist, there's like actual studies that about this, but like any change in a relationship, whether it's like two people who love to eat fast food and one decides not to, or two people, whatever it is, when you have this relationship that is rooted in so many things and one person decides to turn away, like, I think that both people have to understand that we're on a different timeline, and that doesn't mean that it's not going to come back together. but also not judging what's happening in the other person's timeline. And that's a huge lesson, I feel like.
I think that's so important, and also not assuming what's going on with them. That they're pulling away. Oh, well, they just don't like me or whatever. Assuming we know what's going on with them is really a problem, and that's one of the things that has been really we have done well, I think, is continue to have discussions. And it's not like we had one discussion and we're like, oh, okay, well, we got that solved. It was several discussions over 3 years, really.
Yeah.
And to be honest, and it was important because we've been those kinds of friends where we've always shared everything. And so we were able to do that, even though there was this sort of obstacle a little bit for a while.
Yeah.
But like I said, we aren't back to where we were, but I'm more hopeful now than I was. And I think in talking about what you said, Jess, too, about our friendships and how they, we don't know how they're going to go and we don't know what's going to happen, is the idea that we are influencers, right? You guys are influencers because you're Instagram influencers. But when we talk in the meetings, the cafe meetings, so many women talk about how people in their life, friends, partners, family, how they really sort of are watching. They're watching what happens when we stop drinking, and they're seeing, we don't have to say it. We are just showing it so often. And then that can have an impact on them deciding, maybe I'll do that too. Or maybe not. But there's a subtle influence which we just don't know how it's going to play out.
Yeah.
That's so true. And how long it's going to take to play out.
And how long? Life is long, right? And so the trajectory of, if it takes 5 years, well, all right, that might be the case. And then in that 5 years, we might be connecting, as Allie said, you meet other people and are like, oh, you don't drink either. And, so then we find new people also. So, yeah. It's hard, but relationships are hard. That's one of the things. If there's anything I learned as a therapist, relationships are fucking hard.
Yeah.
They are. I don't care if it's parent and kid, or if it's siblings, or just relationships are hard.
Yeah. No. And one thing for me, I know, since because now my sobriety is longer. So I've been sober for 8 years now, and I have a lot of friends that I still am friends with that know the drunk Allie, and so I mean, we've talked about it in meetings before where I am trying to prove to my older friends that I'm still the cool, fun Allie, and then I have friends that I've made in the last 8 years being sober, and they get, the the sober Allie, and they don't have anything to compare me to. And so that comparison, and it's me, it's me trying to be that person at the end of the day. It's not, it's like a mental battle for myself, really, when I have to just realize, just show up as yourself, and these people love you. They've loved you for 20 years. They're still gonna, and so it's it's a very interesting mental game for me in relationships, because I always say, I don't want to come off as the judgy person, the judgy sober person. And it's actually one of my favorite things that you always remind me, well, we actually are judging because we aren't drinking, And so the way, and I think you were I know you're the first person that ever said that to me. And I was just like, it was a hard pill to swallow. But at the same time, it's like, no, it really makes me think, because it's just, there's so much to it all.
There is so much to it all. And the fact is, we have judged that alcohol is bad for us. And it is a judgment that we have decided to be sober. So to pretend that, well, it's all fine. It's all fine. It is true. We aren't judging the person as a bad person if they're still drinking. We're not. No. But we have judged alcohol as it's bad in so many ways.
Yeah.
And so, checking ourselves on, is that coming out of our pores? I don't mean our pores like our pour into our cup, but is it coming out of our, and that's what with Gretchen, she said, and I'm repeating myself, but she said, I feel guilty because I know that it's bad. And she has all kinds of breast cancer risks in her family. And so she knows she shouldn't be drinking. But that can't come from me. But I also can't deny that there is a glimmer of that in our relationship, as I'm not drinking and she is.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's all complicated. People are complicated.
Yes.
Yes.
And there's something to be said about also like these long-term relationships where you grow, you transform, you change, and trying to overcome the image of who you were. And I think both Allie and I are little sisters. And so that's something like our whole life, like even outside of sobriety, trying to overcome, like, I'm not the baby, I'm not the little one, like,
yes.
and then this too, like, I'm not that drunk person anymore. That's not me. And you're almost constantly feel like you have to overcompensate to like prove that you're not the person you were in the past to these people who have seen you in all of these, ways, instead of when you do make new friendships, being able to just like be like, hi, here I am.
Yeah, this is me now. Yes.
This is me
Suzanne
now.
talks, Suzanne talks about that in meeting as we're all meeting each other in a sober, whatever this is, we just all know each other as sober women. And so trying to imagine what were you like when you were drinking, it's really hard to do that, because I just know you guys as sober, and which is it's sort of cool. And it makes me think too that this idea of trying to prove we're fun, or trying to prove we've changed, or any of that stuff. I think we can really get wrapped around the axles when we're worried about how is someone perceiving me versus being my authentic self. And that's all in every way, not just in sobriety, but just like if I concern myself about, that like, that story about if you go on a first date and you tell all about yourself, and then you say, okay, enough about me. I want to hear about you. What do you think of me?
Awkward. No, I've never heard that before. I love that.
That is.
Oh, how, I mean, I know we're coming on 3 years. Have you found yourself like falling into your new friendships that you've created?
Yeah, I think I'm a little bit like a lot of the women on the group on the meetings, who say, I don't really have many people in real life who don't drink. And I think that, that is largely the case for me. But I also think I'm at the stage in life where drinking isn't a big, it's not the big activity, so I've got so many things going on, and there may be people having a drink or two, but it's not central or really focused on that. So I did, when I went on this trip to Patagonia, there was a young woman, she was 35, I think, and she's from Australia, she and her husband, and she didn't drink. She had quit drinking 5 years ago. And so that was like, oh my gosh, someone else not drinking. And so we were fast friends around that, and everybody else, of course, was drinking, not a ton, but drinking. But so the question, I'm sort of going on and on and on, as I tend to do. But the question of my new friendships, I don't know that I have new friendships built around sobriety. I have you guys and all you lovely women that I just so really truly love in our meetings. But in terms of in IRL, I don't have a lot of sober friends. But, Suzanne and Jay, and then Suzanne's husband Russell. I mean, as a family, we're all sober, and Jay's wife really never drank at all. So so the people that I hang out in my family, none of them are drinking, so that's cool.
Yeah, no, that is cool. I mean, all families have their stuff, but I bet holidays are a lot smoother.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
Well, and I think another part of friendship and sobriety is finding like something to connect on. And
Mhm.
like you said, like in your life, there's a lot of things going on that don't involve alcohol, and it can, be hard, especially I think our age with
Yeah.
Yes.
young moms to like have common ground or connection outside of our kids and alcohol. And I think connection is such a huge component of friendship, and so finding that in sobriety can be challenging if the other friend isn't sober.
Yes. 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 Finding, that is one of the things we talk about a lot in the meetings too, is just the idea that I didn't know what I liked to do because what I used to do was go out drinking with friends. And
Mhm.
so taking that out, then there's this empty space for a while.
Yeah.
Like I don't really even know what to do. And so we hear women talk about deciding to meet up and go for a hike or a walk or go for coffee or do something different. But you do have to be more creative because it's so easy to just like, let's meet for a drink.
Yeah.
It's just classic, and we feel like it's fast track to connection, which not necessarily. And it might be connection, but it might not be. You might not remember it the next day.
Yeah. Yeah.
That authentic connection.
Right, exactly, exactly.
Yeah. I'm like, are you going? Are you
No,
going?
go ahead. I'm like,
I think too, it's very difficult to form a new friendship with a drinking friend because they also don't know your backstory and how to act around you. Whereas, like, a long term friendship knows if you were, if you had to, get help with your drinking or if you just
Yeah.
quit to make better choices for yourself. But the thing that I found in the sober friendships I found, because I think similar to you, Allie and I are really our only like sober friends in real
Mm.
life.
yeah.
Um, a lot of the friendships I've made, the people still drink, but something about that retreat and all of us women coming together was there was so much connection that like was unspoken. I felt like
Mm.
because all of us had been through that journey. All of us understood sobriety in our own ways. And that alone was like a vulnerable
Oh.
opening connection. And I felt that so deeply at that retreat, just being in a room of that many women
Yes.
that were sober. And I think that it's really cool because in friendships so often, either the connection happens or you're searching for a connection, but to just walk into a room and instantly feel it because it's like we've all been through something together. It's like a collective connection.
Totally. Like a cult is what you're saying.
You put something in the drinks and it wasn't
And we
alcohol.
but I could not agree more. Just the idea that we connect immediately, but part of that is we're so used to in these meetings being vulnerable. And when you're vulnerable and authentic, it is easier to connect quickly, right? We are not we don't have a facade. We're not, presenting ourselves in a way that isn't authentic. And so I think that is the joy of our group, all of us together, on this sober thing that we've got going. But I think even in real life with other people, if we are the ones who are willing to be authentic,
Mhm.
and whether they're drinking or not, we will attract the person that likes to be authentic.
Yes.
That's
Oh,
so good.
yes. I knew the second I sat next to you.
I know, it was so great,
Well,
wasn't
and you,
it?
something cool about you is you are such like a take no shit kind of woman. Truly, like,
And we love it.
like
I'm here for
I
it.
love it. I love when you say the F word. I like just everything.
I
I'm
know.
like, yeah, listen to her, like, well, no, and it's just there's a sparkle that it's contagious almost.
Oh,
And
well, thank
truly,
you for
like,
saying that.
in your meetings, because I know you said at the beginning, nobody's going to want to go to anyone else's. I'm like, your meetings are my favorite.
Oh,
They
thanks
all
for
Truly
saying
are.
that.
And I think that with your therapist background, you just add so much value to, what all these women are saying. Because, I mean, the meetings, they get very deep and we
They
talk
do.
very heavy, a lot of the time. It's not just, hi, how are you?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah, we go deep quick. Someone cries at least once a meeting, and that is
Yes.
great, but it's like
Yes.
you are just able to provide such support, and not just, well, I hope you have a better day.
Yeah.
You
Like real support
yeah,
and
like
connection.
real, true
Oh,
Well,
support.
and that's the cool thing too, is like it's almost the antithesis of the connection that you feel in drinking.
yes.
Is like yes, when you're drinking and you're drunk in a bathroom, like someone has an outfit that you like, or someone says something and you're like, oh, we connect on that. Well, in sobriety, like you actually connect on all these random things like Bravo or being a mom to a certain set of people. You still have all of these connections, but then like the overhead connection is sobriety, which is making you more open, more vulnerable. And it's like that instant connection that you think you feel when you're drunk in a bathroom that's
Yeah.
really not real, you get in sobriety like
Yes.
times 10. It's like,
Yes.
not only do I connect to you because you're a woman who's been through what I've been through, but we also like to watch Bravo on our off
Yeah.
times. And so now we have two things that we can connect with, and it's so real.
Well,
There's no blocks.
yes, I'll take a pass on the Bravo. I am not a Bravo watcher.
Me
And
neither.
are you either?
Either.
I know.
I know, and Suzanne always does that like once, I don't know, every 6 weeks or so she does a
Yeah.
Bravo episode. And I've listened to a few of them and there are good nuggets of things besides the show. But I'm too
Yeah.
old for that, I guess.
No, and see, I'm not even too old for that. Jess and Abby will keep me updated.
Oh yeah.
On Abby's podcast, she'll mention like some drama, and I'm like, you almost made me want to watch the episode.
Yes.
Almost.
Right. Do you know when you talked about being a therapist in these groups, I just want to make sure that we put the disclaimer in there that yes, I'm a therapist, but our groups are not therapy, they're
Yes.
support.
Yeah.
But I think it's also so important to point out that women that come to these meetings, they bring their real stuff, the real stuff that's hurting them, that they're struggling with. And I think this is nothing new. I'm sure you've all heard this and talked about it. But the idea that when you come to a meeting and you say where you're hurting and you see people nodding their heads and putting in the chat, me too.
Yeah.
I've been there, and I just think it's just gold to be
Yeah.
able to be that vulnerable and that courageous to
Truly.
say, this is really where I'm hurting. And then these women, these sisters that we've got, just saying, yeah, me too. And here's what I've done, or sometimes there's just no real fix, but there's empathy and caring that comes to all the women in the meetings. It's just really wonderful.
And belonging.
Yeah. And two, I was gonna say, yeah, you definitely aren't the only one that responds in these meetings. I feel like most of the time when a heavy subject is brought up, everyone's hand goes up,
Yes.
Everyone wants to,
Have something to say.
have something to say or can relate or wants to cheer you on, or I've been there and this is how I got through this. It's truly such a special support for everyone. And two, the Me Too, like just knowing that you're not alone in this is like, oh, it gives me the chills.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the worst things, is to feel alone and misunderstood. And that's what we provide in the meetings, is that you are not alone and we do understand. I think also, and I've talked about this before, but the idea that the meetings have, and this isn't a commercial for a sober mom life, maybe it is a little bit.
Sorry.
But the meetings are so, one of the things I love about them is there are people that are sober curious. They're working on it. They've had a few weeks maybe, and then they had a data point. There are people who are 3 months sober. There are people who are 8 years sober. And so that one room schoolhouse thing is so valuable because the people that have been there, especially with those early sobriety where it's just, this is so hard. And I don't believe you when you say it's fabulous to be sober because I'm having a hell of a time. And so to be able to hear all the people say, yeah, that is right. You do feel that way in the beginning, but it gets better. And this is how it gets better. And to have just that, the saying, if you want to learn something, you teach it. And I think the more the people who have longer sobriety under their belt, the more that they are reinforcing for the person or teaching the person, they're reinforcing it for themselves that, yeah, this is worth what it takes to get here.
Yeah. So good. I think that both Allie and I found like a new, even within Moxicated, found a new, like, I don't know the word, like just felt a refreshed feeling being entered into that space. And yeah, like you said, I like that analogy, one room schoolhouse, like us being able to be in there with people who are in all different walks of life was so cool, and we learn so much about ourselves and what we're still dealing with and what we dealt with before. And it's such a beautiful way to find friendship and connection. And I think in the time that we live in, if you have like 50 internet friends that are supportive of you and there for you and you can talk to at any point in time, like how incredible is that? It's nothing it's not to be taken lightly. I think like how much support you can find from people that don't even live in your own state, how much connection you can find there.
It's such an important point. Absolutely. And these are real friendships. And I think sometimes we're talking with these women about more real things than we are out in the real world. We're being more vulnerable, more honest, more authentic. And I just want to point out, I'm not old enough to have been in a one-room schoolhouse, just so you know.
I would have never thought that.
I always talk about that. I was like, wait a minute. I didn't have a slate chalkboard, none of that stuff.
We are old enough to know exactly. We visited one-room schoolhouses and wrote on the chalkboards for field trips. I've done that.
The log cabin. Yeah, we've
done that. Oh my gosh, so good. So as we're coming to a close, what advice? I'm sure you have so much great advice. That's gold.
Oh, I'm getting nervous.
What advice would you give someone who is struggling to maybe with their friendships or to show up as their true self in their friendships now that they are sober?
Well, we already talked about how it's important to be patient with those friends that are not quite understanding. And I do think you need to find your people, whether it's in real life or on a supportive group like we have in the Sober Mom Life or the cafe. Don't give up, and we don't know how it will play out. That's the thing, is the idea, well, I would have thought 2 years ago, when I was a year into my sobriety, that Gretchen and I we're just done. And now it's coming back around. And so the idea of having patience, also not assuming you know what's going on inside them. And if you have longtime friends that it feels rocky right now, I would encourage you to have discussions, honest discussions about, I'm seeing this is really hard for you and it's really hard for me. I love you and I don't want this to interfere with that, but I understand if you don't want to be around me or whatever. So inviting a discussion so we can both understand each other. We may never get back to where we were, but we might be better than ever. And so patience and continuing to plug into people who understand you and your sobriety, because out in the real world, they might not, but we always will.
Yes.
Oh,
good. Such a good point. Well, we love you so much. We love that we are friends with you online and in real life.
Yes.
And we can't wait to see you.
I know. I showed Jess your garden.
Oh, yes.
She did. She was showing that.
No, because I started gardening a long time ago and just learned through trial and error. And then finally I got her on it. I was like, I need to show you some things. This is going to bring so much joy to you.
It does.
And it does. But then we're desert girls, and so
Right.
you
Yes.
sent your pictures, and I was like,
Heaven.
oh,
So
I was like,
lucky.
you don't think Mama Sue's can get cooler? Look at her garden.
Oh, well, but it's such a different animal, right? The desert gardens have their own. I mean, they're so cool, and all the rocks and all of that. Yeah, so we each have wonderful gardens, right?
Yes,
We
we
do.
do.
Yes,
We do.
yeah.
See something else we all connect on.
Yes, exactly. There's a lot to us, that's for sure.
Yes, we're
Yeah.
very cool.
Yeah.
We are cool.
Well, we truly love you so much. And thank you so much for blessing our listeners with your wisdom.
Oh, well, I appreciate you asking me to join. It's been just wonderful. I love you, ladies.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, we love you.
And listeners, we love you, babes.
Talk soon.